Freeze out for a second.
Hey guys, we are on the Red Room podcast every Tuesday at 2:00. We are streaming on the Phoenix Arena channel, obviously, and then the Viking Boys YouTube channel and the Just for Flips YouTube channel. We are also streaming on my Instagram as well. So first try on that. So we will see how that works out. So we're playing with that new thing. But we got Kyle Allen here. He's a wholesaler. He just sent me a deal in Miami. So if you're looking for a deal in Miami, reach out to me. So Kyle, tell us where you started and how you got going. And it's, I've known you, I think, for a couple years, and you just seem to keep moving up the ladder. So
thanks for joining us.
Yeah. No, I appreciate you guys for both having us on. You know, you guys are some big power hitters in the Phoenix market and, you know, out in some other markets that you guys are working in too. So, you know, it's great to be able to collaborate with you guys and talk about, you know, a little bit about what I'm doing, what you guys are doing. I love what you guys are doing with the Azria. You know, I love, you know, you guys putting stuff out there. I mean, you guys are making the community a better place and helping investors, you know, just like myself, to get more deals. So, you know, appreciate all what you guys have been doing. So,
of course.
Yeah. So a little bit about my story. I got started. I grew up here in Chandler, Arizona, and had a friend that his mom was an escrow agent, Tammy Gray. You guys are probably familiar with Tammy.
Yeah, no, Tammy, yeah.
Yeah. So Tammy, her son was working for a company called Open House Helpers. And one day she's like, hey, Kyle, like, you know, you might want to, you know, get a job. I just finally got my license, 16, got a car. And I was like, cool, I'm ready to like make some money, you know? And so I got this job putting out open house signs. I ended up meeting one of Doug Hopkins' sales reps out in the field. We were doing an open house for him. And, you know, I was like, oh, this is so cool. Like, this guy works for Doug Hopkins. I see him on TV like every day. You know, it's like hard not to see him. And from there, what I basically started doing was I started passing out flyers for Doug. And that really kind of got me a super like interesting, like, you know, kind of role at 16 to be able to kind of see a little bit on the inside of this company that you see, you know, all over the place, just plastic. Yeah. So I was like, okay, so I started passing, you know, he'd buy a house in X, Y, and Z neighborhood. You go flyer the whole neighborhood. I'd get basically paid, you know, per flyer, but he'd have a little number on the bottom. And if someone called in with that number, they would know, hey, that came from Kyle's flyers, and Kyle gets paid $1,000 of a little bonus. Cool. So, you know, I started doing that. Didn't really understand what he was doing at the time. I just figured he had a lot of money to find a lot of houses. Didn't understand what wholesaling was. Had no idea about any of it. And, you know, that kind of opened up the first door for me. And then from there, I went down to U of A for school. And I was wanting to be an entrepreneur. I got into business school, and I was like, you know, this whole college thing seems cool, but you know, this Doug guy, you know, kept coming back in my head. I was like, dude, he's making a ton of money. You know, I want to start getting into real estate, be in business for myself. So I started my first company at 18. Spent my whole $5,000. I was working over summers, you know, after school to start this company up from scratch, and spent way too much money on the inventory. Had no idea what I was doing. Should have spent way more money on marketing than I should have on inventory. And I called up my dad one day and I was like, hey, you know, I need some money. Like, you know, I don't barely have enough money to like fill up my car or like get groceries. And he goes, well, I'll start selling some stuff. And you know, that's when I really started kicking my gears once I was, you know, didn't have a cushion anymore to be sitting back on. It really got me thinking a little bit more. So I got in my car, started going door to door to brokerage, and would just door knock them and put out these open houses, pass out flyers. Basically, you know, didn't really have much experience. So I was like, I'll do whatever the lowest totem pole thing was just to get some money. And then I got introduced to a guy named Michael Rhodes down in Tucson. He was one of my first clients, and he picked me up, and he just saw the hustle in me and kind of started mentoring me, started showing me more about the investing side. You know, he was buying a lot of flips, buying a lot of stuff at auction, was doing marketing. So I kind of came in and started, you know, kind of helping him with all the marketing, the systems. I'm kind of the back end nerd, right? I like doing the computer stuff. I like, you know, figuring out how systems and processes work. Like that's like kind of my bread and butter. So I started really helping them to build out their Podio and build out, you know, PPC marketing and some stuff that, you know, they weren't necessarily doing at the time. So that kind of really got me into it. And then he wasn't really wholesaling much at that time. He was wholesaling a little bit. I'd be like, Chris, oh, I got this deal. And you're like, oh, dude, I need a deal right now. And then he'd just sell you the deal off and kind of do that. There was no like big buyers list. There was no like major like process with it. So I kind of helped to build out that wholesale side for him on the disposition side. And that's kind of what got my feet wet wholesaling and, learning what investors were doing, what they were picking up, how they were buying properties. And then I decided to go out and do it solo, which was scary at that time. I was, still in college and trying to figure out what I wanted to do. And from that process, I found my first deal. It was actually in Tucson. I signed the contract at Village Inn. We were just talking before. Luke's out at some sales appointments, meeting some sellers, shaking hands, going to belly, talking with them. And so I thought, that's the best way to do it. Just go get myself out in the field, start finding some deals that way. I made $12,000 on that first deal and was just really hooked on the wholesale stuff. And was like, the marketing business was great, but it just was one of those things where it's kind of that vehicle to get you into the next thing. You know what I mean? Just doing what you can to get into that next atmosphere and place. But I always thought to invest in real estate, I needed a ton of money. And that's kind of the thing that I figured out eventually was you don't need any money. You don't need any experience. You don't need any credit, anything like that. So I really started learning a lot about that. So
you just need hustle.
Yeah. You just need the hustle and I got news for you. You run a marketing business right now.
Exactly. Yep. I know. And that's kind of what I think about it. It's like I'm my own client. I don't have to, take orders or, deal with anyone. It's like, with the marketing business, it's like, hey, Chris, you could be the best closer in the world. But then I talked to Luke and then, Luke's like not answering these leads and he's not getting back to people. And he'd call me and be like, Kyle, you suck at your job. And I'm like, dude, Chris is doing really well. They're like, what do you mean? He's getting like, we're doing the same stuff we're doing with you, but for Luke. And it's like, why is it not working for Luke? And that was kind of the challenging part. And I kind of kept running into that same battle. And I was like, screw it. I'm just going to pick up these leads and start calling these myself and try to set appointments. Yeah. That's what I started doing, So
I was gonna say, Kyle, you've got way too much hustle to go to college,
Yeah. I still finished up college because I talked to my parents and they were not on board for me to not graduate. They were like, hey, if you don't graduate, you got to pay us back. Because I was really fortunate. My parents were paying for my school. I didn't have a scholarship or anything like that. They're like, you'll pay us back for school. And at the time, I wasn't making enough money to take on that, plus still run this business. So I said, I'll swallow the pill and finish school, even though it was not my favorite thing to do by any means.
It took me 7 years to get my degree, so I feel you.
Yeah, it's definitely a challenging thing. And my cousin, called me up. He's in school and he was working with us over the summer, and he's like, dude, like, I just want to make money. And I'm like, you're literally in my shoes. Like, I feel you, man.
Yep.
So you started door knocking for Doug Hopkins. Then you go down and you're sitting in college at U of A. Every time you see his commercial come over across the screen, you get remotivated that you need to get out of college and get back into real estate. You go down and you work for probably the largest buyer in Tucson, right?
Yeah, 100%.
So you go work for the largest buyer in Tucson and help him build his back end systems with his CRM, his marketing with PPC or whatever other marketing he did. So you got a front row seat of it starting at 16 till whenever you decided to go out on your own and get your first deal. Kind of a similar story to you, Luke. Like you started with Brent Daniels and I'm like, you were in a great company or not getting a mentorship, but you were getting a mentorship through
a great sphere. You're in a good,
and then able to step out on.
Yeah, it's a good sphere and a good position to be because there's not as much of a learning curve, right? That learning curve is cut in half when you're able to kind of work with some of these other guys, because then it's not so much of figuring it out on your own. I mean, it is once you obviously take off on your own, of course. But before they were still really good guys where they were willing to, kind of still hold my hand a little bit, even when I went out on my own. Which, that's tough to find. A lot of times people are going to be like, oh, screw you. I'm not interested if you're not going to be working with me or for me. So, luckily it looks like we both got lucky with working with some good people.
Yeah, definitely. And it's cool because I can still sell, Mike deals and stuff like that. And
Yeah.
vice versa. It's, hey, good to get buy numbers, especially, like you said, he's a big buyer down there. So it's like, I see where, he's buying stuff and I'm like, hey, I got a lead that, just came in down the street. You want another one in the neighborhood,
Yeah, exactly.
So, and there's always ways to collaborate. And I think, at first it was, it's always hard when you're like stepping away to do your own thing. But, if you can try to still provide value, I think that's the biggest thing is figuring out how do you still provide value if you're going to go out on your own.
For sure.
Yeah. And it's just, and then you got to learn all the systems. And I feel like that's where a lot of wholesalers lack is they don't necessarily have the systems in place. Like you can, go find deals. You can network to find deals. You can be like a cold caller like Luke to find deals, but you need like all the different pieces because, i.e. text messaging, you could have just been blasting text messages out there and then one pivot with, some regulations and your only marketing channel is gone.
Yeah, 100%. And you're still dealing with issues with, texting today, so it's like, you might be able to do it to a certain extent, but you can't go all the way. And I think that was definitely really helpful that I kind of knew a lot of different backgrounds of which way to work. Cause there's that saying like any marketing works, you just have to go all in on it and try it and figure out what is going to work for you on that. Right. Cause I know you guys have probably played around with a lot of different marketing channels over the years and figured out which ones you guys prefer, which ones you guys don't like, all that stuff. And it just comes down to preference and, what you're willing to do on it. Some stuff's a little bit more legwork up front, but guess what? If you do the legwork up front, you might not be competing against that deal on anyone because no one knows about it.
Right. Yeah. No, there's no doubt about that. I mean, a lot of it, I think when you're first getting started just comes down to, what you can afford with where you're at,
True. Yeah.
Because I mean, for us, like when we first got started, no, it was cold calling and door knocking because that's what we could afford. You're not, when you're first getting started, it's a little bit more difficult to be like, yeah, let's drop $20K a month on mailers,
Yeah. You're looking at that like, oh my God.
Yes, absolutely. And then obviously as you grow, you try to scale as much as possible, which I don't know. I would love to know where you're at was in the sense of scaling, Kyle. Cause I mean, I've said it on here multiple times before, but Jake and I did things completely backwards. We didn't scale our team at all. And every dollar that we made went straight into rental properties, which I'm not complaining about. It ended up being a blessing because we were buying a lot of rental properties when the market was super low. But what we found was that, it was more difficult to scale after that because we didn't have, we didn't have the knowledge, I guess, in the sense of like what we were doing in the sense to scale. So we had a lot of rental properties, which is great. And that was helping the cash flow on a regular basis. But we found ourselves, trying to scale our business years and years and years and years into it where, had we have just scaled from the get-go and tried, kind of going about it that way and then worried about buying rental properties later, we probably would have a bigger, smoother running business right now. But at the same time, we also wouldn't have nearly as many rental properties.
Yeah. And at some probably really good interest rates too,
Right. Yeah, exactly.
No, that's a good question. I mean, we've bought rentals, over, the last like really 2.5, 3 years. Me and Lucas have, we're at 37 units, mostly multifamily. Yep. We syndicated some of those deals. So we were able to kind of come up with, little to no money into some of those deals, which was great. But the ones that, we ended up keeping ourselves, which I think out of our portfolio, I mean, so we have 19 units that are syndicated and the rest are all, ones that we just bought ourselves.
Yeah, for sure.
We trap a lot of money into those, even if you do the BRRRR method, even if you, go in there. And that's kind of one of the things this year and last year, like kind of midway last year that we started really pivoting to was keeping more cash for the business to keep operating and scaling. Yeah. Obviously wholesaling your cash cycles are a lot more condensed. You're able to do more frequency and also even more volume. I mean, you guys have both scaled at, an amazing rate and have done a lot of flips and probably a lot of rentals at one time, but that's a lot to manage for construction crews. It's a lot of, moving capital that's always going out where you're always trying to have to figure out what's going on. It's a lot of headaches of just random things that's going to pop up occasionally. So, with wholesaling, not to say it's going to be smooth sailing, but definitely has a little bit less parts moving around and
For
things.
sure.
So we've definitely started to pivot, but because we felt the same thing that you were feeling, probably was like, we got all this money that's trapped into rental properties or trapped in these fix and flips for X amount of time. And it's like, you're trying to ramp up your marketing. You're trying to ramp up X, Y, and Z. You're trying to get an office space. You're trying to, hire on, assistants and people to help out with facilitating the infrastructure of the business. And as of recent, I really started thinking about this too. It's like, let's just say even on a great fix and flip, I can make 30% of my money or 40%, 50%, 100% even. I could probably make that back with my marketing dollars a lot faster. And also with a lot safer, right? I might be hitting a 2-3x multiplier on my marketing, maybe even potentially higher depending on what I'm doing and different stuff. So that's one of the things that I've really started to look back because I was, probably like you, I've talked to Jake too as well. And he's like, Luke wants to buy everything. And I'm like, yeah, I'm the same person. I'm like, because that's with Michael Rose, it was, dude, he was buying everything, you know what I mean? And I saw that, I just figured that's the route to success. It's just, you got to keep buying stuff and people will see you on the tax records all over the place. Like a Zach Keeps, you look him up, he has 200 properties or whatever and some change. It's, there's a lot of credibility behind that when you see it. And that's kind of what I thought, hey, that's how I get credibility. That's how I get more deals, especially from other wholesalers and people like that. But as we started to, figure out, different things and also the market changing helped us a lot to reevaluate what we were doing. So
for sure. And I think that we kind of hit a place, and I think everyone does where, especially if you did, go heavy on rentals where you kind of start thinking like, okay, I've got this rental property and maybe I've got 200 grand in equity in it. Right. But it's making me $1,000 a month. So it's like, what is more beneficial for me right now? Is it to have that $1,000 a month from this rental property and 200K trapped? Or is it to, maybe 1031 that or try to move that property, unlock that 200 grand. And then it's like, what am I going to do with 200 grand? I'm going to make a whole hell of a lot more than probably $1,000 a month.
Definitely.
That's kind of, and Chris, I know you just did that too with some of your properties. Cause it's like, I mean, yeah, you had some deep ones, but I mean, you got to think about things like that when you're trying to scale.
Yeah, no, 100%.
So Kyle, what do you think your best marketing strategy right now for everybody out there is? Like, what's the one that's bringing the highest multiple?
Yeah. So one of the things that like we focus on a lot is like, doing B2B relationship type of stuff. So, I mean, we're doing a lot of like B2B relationships, especially for those getting started. It's one of like the lowest ticket items, right? I might spend a couple $1,000s using texting and emailing and even hiring maybe cold callers to do it a month, but you can get, I mean, plenty of deals. Like right now we have 7 deals in escrow from just JV alone. And I think that totals out to be about like probably 55, 60 grand worth of assignment fees. And I probably only spent maybe $3,000 to get those deals. You know what I mean? Yeah. So it's relatively low barrier to entry. Obviously you got to perform or else there's, it's all for nothing. So that's definitely I would say one of our best ones right now, as far as like the multiplier. When it comes to direct to seller, we're seeing some results with our PPC ads and stuff like that we started launching and getting, more direct to seller. That obviously comes with a lot higher of a budget. We're spending about $3,000 to $4,000 a week on that. So it's like same thing. You obviously have to convert these leads or else you're just burning a hole in your pocket. And that's one of the things that we're really focused on. We're still using Facebook and TikTok and YouTube to try to reach out to motivated sellers too, but not seeing the same results on those platforms as we are seeing PPC.
Yeah. What are you seeing? What is your average conversion rate on the PPC? Are you like, 1 to 10, 1 to 12, 1 to 7?
I'm like probably closer to like 1 to 25, to be honest.
Okay.
Yeah. We need to work on our sales process a little bit more on the back end. To get that, and our average lead is right now about like $200 or so.
Okay, so you're like $5,000 to contract.
Yeah, so it's definitely spending a lot to get a contract, but we've tried cold callers in the past, haven't really had much success with that. Pulled a couple of deals here and there, but nothing where you're like, hey, this is a lean machine, and you just keep it going. So
yeah, no, it's unless you got Luke on the phone with you, you got to. Luke, he wants to hire you. We can't hear you though. You're muted.
Has it just been me cutting out?
Yeah, you've been cutting out a little bit, but it's all good.
Glendale, man, I'm telling you.
Yeah.
these phone towers in Glendale. They gotta pick it up.
Yeah, exactly.
Kyle says he was just looking for a cold caller. Was wondering if you were for hire.
We need someone good on the
Yeah.
phones, Luke.
You know what's funny is that one of the first kind of events that I ever went to, we were talking, somebody brought up about, about me cold calling and whatnot. And it was actually really funny. I probably had 3 to 5 people after the event, after the kind of presentation, they came up to me after and they're like, "Hey, just curious, but like, I'd be willing to pay you like $20 an hour to cold call. Is that something you'd be interested in?" I'm like,
No.
"What? No." Like, $20 an hour. Like you understand that when you cold call, like if you get your own deal, you might make 80 grand on one deal.
100% versus $20 for sure.
Yeah, it was pretty funny.
Yeah, you're like,
Yeah.
maybe do a split, but even still, what's the point of the split unless you're giving me massively warm leads that are like, hey, I just need to close these things, and like that's all I'm doing.
Exactly. If you want to pay for crazy marketing and you want to split 50-50, then maybe,
Yeah, but
Yeah,
even still,
yeah,
it's like,
funny.
if your pipeline's full and handling leads, there's no point in it for sure.
Yeah.
Right.
So Kyle, on your acquisition, are you just wholesale, or are you trying to convert some novations, some creative finance deals? Are you taking listings? Are you taking all the different channels down that you can
Yeah,
get?
that's a great question. So I'm not licensed, so I don't take any listings down myself or anything like that. We have a lot of great people we'll try to refer those out to. So that's kind of one of the things. We work with a lot of agents, that bring us deals too. So we try to reward them back with deals, from some of our marketing.
Yeah.
To be like, hey, this doesn't work for us, just the same thing that they didn't work for you to list it. Let's, reciprocate back to them. So that's been one of those things that has been working well on that side. Obviously not a huge financial benefit for me. We're trying to, work novations on some of them, but, that's not really my expertise either. So I kind of have someone right now that's helping to, try to convert those into novations, especially with PPC, we get stuff randomly from like Denver that someone fills out randomly, you know what I mean? Or some of these places that are a little bit more outside of our scope of work. We've taken down a couple of them sub 2, that we bought and stuff like that. We don't see a lot. We've seen probably like this last like month or though, we've seen a lot of people like that were bought the house in 2020, 21, 22, or 23 that are trying to sell these properties now, like can get a cash offer. And some of them don't really have much equity or any equity at all in them.
Yeah.
We're trying to talk to those people about it, but trying to overcome that hurdle on some of them are a little bit difficult to get them to comprehend what that really is. How did they benefit from it? What happens to their equity? What happens if, we default? Like some of them just are very anti it and, just kick us off the phone. But we try to take as many exits as we can on them to see especially if it doesn't work for cash at first. We're like, hey, there might be this other way that we can still work together and net you some more money, with maybe a novation agreement. But then some of them are like, I'm sure you guys have heard this 1,000 times. I already have an agent. We try to, convert them. Oh, is your agent your mom or your friend? It's like, do you want that person to do it? Or do you want someone that's like a true expert that does this every single day,
Right.
Yeah. So trying to get better at moving some of those other exits and stuff like that. So
now, are you doing, as far as your innovations, are you doing like, I know there's a couple guys out there, like Rich Wonders is one of them, like where he takes the JV novation lead and tries to convert it for you. Are you using something like that? Or are you trying to just, Yeah,
there's a guys next door to me that they've been doing novations. I personally never even done one. So I just pass it over to them. They do the whole thing. They said they'll pay me out 50% if I get it done. So I'm like, cool, let's get it done and try to pass over some of those leads and see what they can do with them. So yeah. It's one of those things where we want to learn more about it, but at the same time, it's kind of, trying to learn too many things at once is, also kind of a lot. So
right. Yeah, for sure. We've talked about it before. Shiny object syndrome. It's a real thing. It's a real thing.
It is. And I know what I'm good at, and I try to focus as much towards that as possible.
Well, Luke's out on an appointment because he knows what he's good at, right?
Yeah,
exactly. That's why I'm back here again. It just makes the most sense for me.
I love it. And then what are you guys doing right now for most of your guys' marketing channels? What's maybe working well for you guys too?
We're doing all PPC, PPL, and cold calling.
Nice.
Yeah, we got away from texting because texting kind of fell off hard for us, obviously, when they came down on a lot of the stuff. So, Yeah, that's the majority of what we're doing right now. Just making sure we're staying on the the leads that come through, staying on the old leads, and obviously we do a decent amount of deals on the market too, just because we've got some guys that are kind of set up for that, and they do a really good job on that. So kind of combination of those four.
Cool.
Yeah.
Compared to your PPC to pay per lead, are you seeing better results from that? Because obviously you're just fixed at a cost.
Yep. Yeah, no question about it.
Yeah, no, that's cool. I know a couple guys that keep pitching me on that. Yeah, I need to talk to them. So.
Yeah, we're doing PPC. Obviously, we do our, just same with you. We work with a lot of guys and we do some JV stuff on market. We're setting up PPL right now. So just all the different channels that everybody else uses.
Yeah, true. Any way you can get a deal, it's a deal. That's the end of the day. So, yeah, no, I love that.
And obviously, this is the time to make the money. It's going to be, I think it's 8 months, and then we're going to another September and October. It'll be nice and slow. So it'll be interesting to, like you listen to Doug. He was on here a couple of weeks ago, but like his cost per lead is going to go through the roof because of dealing with,
Super Bowl.
Well, not Super Bowl, all the election stuff buying the traffic, right?
Like I didn't even think about that. Yeah,
he's TV traffic, so he's the most expensive traffic, and they're gonna gobble up all that space. So, think about
whatever price, they don't care. Yeah,
their budgets are millions and millions of dollars, and so he's getting radio and commercial time, and that's where he buys his space, and it's probably gonna triple in cost in the next 8 to 10 months. So
yeah, and it's not like you could just be like, oh yeah, I'm gonna do something else, especially when he's doing the volume and the many markets as he's doing too. It's hard to maneuver around those. So
yeah, so it's it'd be interesting if he steps it back, but that's just part of having all your different channels, right? That's why it's nice to have your on market channel, that you have the people probably you're mentoring that are bringing you deals, and those are the cheapest ones, right? And then your PPC and your PPL and all that stuff.
Yeah, I always think about it like this: is like those are the ones that then fund maybe the direct to seller stuff, right? Because those are more like active. You're more involved with that type of like marketing. It's not like you can kind of just set the ads and forget it, type of thing. It's like you got to be very on top of these relationships, especially when it's someone that knows Chris or Jack, right? Like it's someone that knows you guys. It's like obviously they're going to talk to you. They're not going to talk to a VA. They're not going to talk to just some random assistant. They want a little bit more access and mobility with that type of stuff. So you got to be a little bit more proactive with those relationships for sure. But they are some of the best deals. I mean, there's obviously, I know you probably have JV partners that you've done a lot of business with over the years, and they keep back to you because they know you guys sell houses for a really good price.
Yeah, I mean that's kind of our marketing is, hey, we got one of the biggest lists in town. We should be able to push it out and close it for more than the next guy can, right? So that's yeah.
So I think a great, especially when you've been doing it for so long. Obviously, you have a lot of great people. You guys have the capital behind it too, as well, to give them these borrowers hard money. There's so many different avenues that you can definitely go and continue to keep growing with it. So
yeah. Well, you got I'm coming up on 25 years. You got
we got some time.
When you're 25 years, you're gonna be way past me. So I mean, hopefully we have no more financial crisis like we did in 07. That was a little bit of a setback.
Yeah, I could imagine. And I applaud you for going through that and obviously working through it, because that's something. I was still a kid at that time, and being, I didn't really understand the repercussions until you talk to guys like yourself who've been, through those. And it's like, we haven't necessarily seen something like that. 2020 was a little bit, but it was a small little glimpse where it was like blurry for like 2 months for everyone, where everyone's like, running around with their head cut off. But then it was like, it went full force into crazy market, where it was probably the most ridiculous market we've ever seen. So, that didn't happen after 2008 and 9. It didn't have a 25% increase, the next couple years after that. So,
Yeah, no, it's back to just business and as usual. It's going to be, it's just going to be a grind. I mean, 6% mortgages are here to stay.
Yep.
You gotta do what you're doing. You gotta have your marketing channels. You gotta dial them in. Like I'm listening to you. I'm like 1 to 25 conversion rate. Like there's a little thing there's a little button I'd need to click on right there. That should be down to 1 to 12 ish.
Yeah, I hear people say like 1 to like 10 to 15 is good. So it's like, yeah, we need to work on those, because obviously if we're losing them to someone else that's getting it, those houses do sell. We keep track of them, so we're like, yeah, that one sold, we missed it, and it's like, or I see it in my wholesale list from someone else that, is in town. And, then I try to maybe sell it for them too, and try to make some money on it. Even though I missed that opportunity going direct, maybe I could find them a buyer and make some money that way. So,
yeah, it's just, just the volume of deals. You might make 5 on this one, 25 on this one, but as long as you keep the money coming in the slot machine, you can redo your marketing dollars, get to pull the slot machine again and see what comes out.
I love that analogy because it's true, because you never really know what you're going to get with some marketing, especially when you're first trying it out. Like we tried TikTok out and we're still testing it out. And, we've spent, a good chunk of change, probably about $5,000 just running TikTok ads, just trying to see, hey, could we maybe find people? It's not really a heavily used channel right now for, acquisition strategies, right? Most people think YouTube or Facebook or, Google, like pay-per-click or pay-per-lead type of services, but no one's really thinking about TikToks. We're like, hey, like maybe this might be an avenue that we could go pursue and try to do some stuff in. It hasn't really been very fruitful by any means, but we've had some good conversations from it that, maybe if we keep playing that game, maybe we become maybe a little bit more of an authority in that space on TikTok versus, trying to be an authority on Google that, is obviously I'm competing against Opendoor and OfferPad and, some of these massive companies that I just don't have the same resources, So trying to be.
Thank goodness we're not competing with those right now, because the cost per lead used to be like $600, and now that they're a little bit moved out of the space, it's back down to, I don't know what you're seeing, but we do Florida and Arizona to try to hit multiple markets, but our cost per lead bounces like at 270, somewhere around there.
Yeah, ours is like from like 220 to like 250 ish, roughly, given kind of what we're doing. But we're mostly like Arizona, but I'm doing the whole state of Arizona, so. Yeah. I might get stuff in Tonopah one day. I might get stuff in Rio Rico, and then I might get stuff in Tucson or Sedona. It's a little bit more random, and definitely some rural properties that we're getting from it too.
Yeah, but if you look at your numbers, your wholesale fee, once you get them wholesale, is probably way bigger on those properties.
Yeah, without a doubt. Yeah. So especially compared to our JV stuff, for sure.
Well, cool. We just got to try to keep this at like 30 minutes. So we appreciate you jumping on and sharing your door knocking journey at 16 all the way up to wholesaling deals. Like I said, he just sent me a deal in Miami. If you're looking for deals in Miami, so I have a lot of people that follow me in Florida. He just locked up one in Miami. He's looking to wholesale. So what's the best way they can contact you?
Yeah, you can find me on Instagram at Kyle Allen 12, or you can find me on TikTok, Real Kyle Allen. You could search Kyle Allen Real Estate on Google too, because if you just search Kyle Allen, you might find the football player. That's not me. So definitely make sure to put real estate in the back half. I've been trying to brand that a little bit more, just because, obviously how Google works, they're going to give the authority to the football player, not the random kid that lives in Scottsdale. So
well, ironically, the football player is from Scottsdale also.
I know, which makes it even harder. So
I forget where he's at right now. I think he's at the Patriots, but he actually played on Jack's team.
Did he?
Like a NYS team. Jack and him were on the same football team.
Yeah, and it makes it hard because the age is like right there too. Like I get random people that will like comment on my Instagram and they'll be like, dude, we're so glad to see like you're not playing football and you're doing something else. I'm like, I think they definitely have me confused with the wrong person. I'm like, it's not me, but I'll take it. If you think I played in the NFL, like, that's amazing. So
well, we appreciate you jumping on. Thanks for jumping on, and I'll take a look at this Miami deal.
Perfect, Chris. Always a pleasure getting to chat with you, man.
Yep. See ya.
All right, bye.